Hey everybody, and welcome to the Double Stuff Podcast, where we double the hosts, double the topics, and double the fun. I'm Dan.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Charity.
And I'm Alan.
And this is part 2 of our discussion of Variety's 100 greatest movies of all time.
Because we can't fit it in one.
We definitely could not. And if you haven't, you should listen to part 1. It's episode 140. You can tell why we've only gone through the top 10 through 6 of the movies so far, and a few omissions.
This could be a year-long topic. If we went through all 100, oh my gosh, we would never get off this topic.
I took notes. I have to scroll through my notes. That's how many notes I took on this. So we're going to jump right in. Last time we finished off with talking about Seven Samurai and a few omissions. This time we're going much newer than any of the previous movies that we've had on here, or at least except for Saving Private Ryan. Pulp Fiction. Quentin Tarantino's sophomore, well, technically second movie, but outing. I don't feel like you are a big Pulp Fiction fan.
Oh yeah,
I am.
I've seen bits and pieces, but admittedly, I've never seen the whole film. I'm probably one of the few in the whole world that probably hasn't seen it.
I don't know how you could watch Pulp Fiction in bits and pieces
right now.
A lot of it, like I said, I've watched commentary, so they might talk about certain parts of it, but never to just sit down and watch it.
Is it because it's rated R?
Admittedly, I don't.
It does have some dirty words in it.
Well, okay.
And by some, I mean all of them.
Yeah.
All the time.
Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead.
Me personally, I know it limits me to a lot of films, but I really don't like watching a lot of gory, violent, scary, profane movies, and a lot of them kind of fit in those categories.
Well, then you were gonna love this one.
Yeah, I know.
I guess the real question is,
saw.
why is this number 5, right? Like, why?
Probably because he saw a Kurosawa film and was like, "What else can we do?"
I was thinking. You mentioned Time Code in the last episode. And kind of the uniqueness of it. This was obviously not the first movie, but it was a big standout movie for being completely out of order.
Right.
Everything about the movie is like I mean, you could watch it in order if you wanted to, but it would kind of ruin the effect of it. And you really have to pay attention and follow along to figure out what's happening when and where, why these characters are showing up.
So it's almost like reading a book, because books do that.
It's kind of like
jump
that,
back and forth, yeah.
I think it's broken into chapters too.
It is. I believe it is. Yeah, and I haven't watched it in a while, so I'm gonna go back and revisit it for sure. But it's. I mean,
Sarah, you can skip Gold Watch that chapter.
That's probably true. Although Christopher Walken's great in that.
Oh,
he's just got that long monologue looking right into the camera, holding that gold watch. It's fantastic. So
no, and I don't doubt that it's become a hugely iconic film. I mean, heck, I like John Travolta and I like Christopher Walken, and I like everybody for who they are. It's just,
Harvey Keitel's in there too.
Yes,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I like I said, it's not like I won't watch it in the future. I mean, I know up to the point of this recording, I haven't yet. So if we were to ever revisit this, it'd be like, you know what, I finally did.
if you watch it, I would say watch it just for sort of the uniqueness of the storytelling and like how he messes with time. And sort of your expectation of a 3-act structure and beginning, middle, end. It's unique in that way.
I mean, it sounds like it breaks the rules partly in how, and because I guess it's different views of a story, and it all kind of connects together.
It's so hard to explain. So basically, all these characters, it's almost like vignette. You could watch the movie basically in sort of like short vignettes, right?
Okay.
But all these characters sort of mix, like intermingle with each other, but they don't do anything in the proper order of like a story. So you will see characters that you think are gone and then come back, and
interesting.
Glass Onion kind of did that.
Glass Onion
kind of did it too, and I think Glass Onion definitely took, I think, some of that. I mean, everything takes inspiration from Pulp Fiction nowadays, ever since it came out. But I think it's definitely worth on the list. I don't know if I'd put it this high.
I was actually going to ask, I'm sorry to interrupt, was this list based on order of importance, or was it just, here's 100 movies?
I can't tell the difference.
I'm not sure what the criteria was.
Like, this is the best and 100 is the worst. Yeah.
I don't know what it meant. I mean, it's
not sure what
it's a committee of, I think, about 6 people, and it looked like it was split between both male and female that were a part of this committee. The names of the writers didn't stand out to me, so I don't know what their criteria was. I'm sure if you're putting together a list like this, it didn't happen in a half an hour. You know,
no,
you're definitely fighting through it. So I'm sure that there were a lot of compromises. And we'll probably discuss them when we're at the end.
I do think that the way
I don't know why
did it is ranked 100 to 1. So I think that they were trying to go for like the 100 greatest
Yeah.
up to like the number
Right.
one. Is the
Yeah.
impression that I got.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good question, though, because I was curious about that too.
Right.
So I think we've spent plenty of time on Pulp Fiction. We should move right along. Unless you had something else you wanted to add.
Nope.
on
Let's
it.
get
I
to
know-
Citizen Kane.
Well, I want to. I do want to revisit. Like you're talking about how to structure a film,
Uh-huh.
and Christopher Nolan isn't in this either.
Nope, he got one movie on it.
Oh, he did.
He did. He got
it just didn't get momentum.
It's Dark Knight,
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Dark
okay.
Knight on it.
Okay, that's right.
which is a great movie.
Yeah, but it's not momentum.
it's not Memento.
Anyway.
No. All right. So this was. I'm gonna let you take this one away. Number 4.
Citizen Kane is number 4.
This
which
is one that you probably watch in film school.
Yes.
This is-
everyone
Everybody
staple.
plays this
Everybody
one.
should.
Yeah.
is a staple. I actually had my students watch this because it had played in the regular theaters for their 80th anniversary last year, and because a lot of my students have never seen a black and white film before, so I figured maybe that's a good way to do it. But the thing about that film, and I know a lot of people call it the greatest film of all time. I mean, that's a big claim to say. But I understand why they might have said that because one, it's just, I mean, the fact that Orson Welles was in his 20s doing
Yeah,
this,
I didn't know he was 25. I was just reading the
Yeah, if you
bio
ever want
here.
to feel bad about what you've acconched so far in life,
Hold on.
read about Orson Welles making Citizen Kane and starring in it and writing it.
I
and
understand,
writing it.
but he had a very long and proficient history in radio before that led up
But
to
I
this.
think,
But for
yeah.
his freshman film,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if this is gonna be your first film, this is a heck of a way to start. You know, one thing about this film that I like, which I don't hear a lot of people talk about, I saw it in an article one day. I didn't even think about it watching the film. Is that there's a couple scenes with him and Joseph Cotton, and you actually see the ceiling when they're talking. And if you watch a lot of sets, TV shows, whatever, you never see the ceiling because that's where the lights and stuff are hanging. So the fact that, you know, they had to build this really big platform and the cameras were like in this hole.
they dug a
essentially.
hole for
Yeah.
that shot. Yeah.
And to have a scene that actually showed a ceiling, I didn't realize until I saw it. I was like, okay, especially for 1940, 41 when this came out. The fact that they did that for back then, and you don't even see that kind of stuff now, showing like the ceiling of the office that they were in is kind of a pretty big deal. But I mean, the camera work is absolutely amazing. They're one of the few to do like I don't know if they were the first, but they're one of the few that really master like the continuous shots and doing a lot of things in one go, one take, which you definitely have to know your lines. The camera has to be choreographed in a way to get everything it's supposed to do. And so, and then one of my favorite scenes is near the end when he's walking and he sees his reflection in the mirror like 500 times and he's just walking through it. Like there's just certain shots that is very modern for the 1940s that we still do now. We don't really think much about it. It's a great shot, but they were doing this stuff when camera work was the size of, refrigerators and stuff like that. So I admire, at least for the time period, for the equipment that they had to work with, the fact that, this was Orson Welles' first film in his 20s doing this. I didn't have that kind of knowledge at 25. I kind of wonder if I have that kind of knowledge now. but so the writing of it, he was a one-man show in a weird way. Has its pros and cons, but just everything about it is amazing.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if am I the only one that's actually seen this one all the way through?
no,
Oh,
I've
no,
seen it.
No, we
yeah,
watched
yeah.
it all.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a
Yeah.
great movie. I don't think it's a super enjoyable watch, but I think it's a fantastic
It's an
movie.
educational.
Yeah. Oh no, it's not like let's rewind it and watch it again.
Yeah.
But I just watch it and I'm just in awe of the production. So I watch it. That's the way I watch with certain movies. I love the production quality of it. So I just come out of that really in awe. Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty certain there is a shot in this movie because it's RKO and they used to reuse B-roll from other movies in like establishing shots, and I'm pretty certain they use a shot of Skull Island from King Kong
Did they?
as an establishing shot.
Oh,
I
I'm
think
trying
you
to
can see a
remember.
pterodactyl fly across
No
the portion
way.
of the screen. I have to go back and double check.
I
but
need
I'm
to
almost
look into
positive
that.
that's the case.
That'd be interesting.
I need to look into
For
that.
Xanadu?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of movies are known for doing that. Like there's a movie that me and Charity have seen called Cabin in the Sky, and they reuse the tornado from The Wizard of Oz. So I mean, there's a lot of films that reuse certain shots or certain bits. So it's like,
Okay.
oh, are you gonna take you over the rainbow now too? So that oddly doesn't seem very far fetched, but I want to double check on that just to make sure.
I'll double check too. So
Yeah.
let's jump ahead 30 years and go with The Godfather.
Oh, boy.
They just actually made a show about the making of this, which was excellent.
Yeah.
Paramount Plus. It's called The Offer. So I watched that, and then I rewatched this movie again just last week. I watched The Godfather again. It's good. I think Godfather 2 is better. I think Godfather 1 is
It's
great.
It's
but
one of those.
I guess you wouldn't have a 2 if it
Has
weren't for
to
the 1,
establish-
right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
have a Terminator 2 without Terminator.
The
Yeah.
two, but I think that the story in 2 and the dual stories between Vito
Corleone.
and Michael are just done better. This one almost feels like it's kind of waits a long time to really get like a through line.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize they went from the wedding at the beginning of this movie directly into the Johnny Fontaine stuff with the
Right.
horse head.
Yeah.
Like there's
Oh,
no beat in
okay.
between it. So like you don't even get to know the Godfather, you get to know Vito Corleone right at the beginning in his office, and then you spend like 15 minutes with Tom Hagen in LA. And like
Oh.
none of the other characters, Jimmy Caan, Al Pacino, none of their characters are even in the movie for a while.
Right.
And then it jumps back, and then it's a well-made movie. It's definitely
So it's
great,
a
but-
slow build up
Well,
before you get to like the action part, I guess.
This, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the first one that's in the top 10 that was based on a bestseller first. Was this novel based?
It is novel based, and I
Yeah.
think you're right.
I feel like most
yeah.
movies are
Yeah.
adapted from.
And so, which is always a challenge. How do you make a film of a well-loved, well-respected, piece of literature?
Well, and
It's
also
very
controversial at the time.
Yes,
which I
highly.
didn't even realize until I watched that show, The Offer, just how hated. Like the book was beloved, but the Italian American community
Yeah.
hated it
difficult. Right.
Oh, because of the stereotype?
because of the
or-
stereotype. And they
Oh,
actually
okay.
brought in the author Mario Puzo to write the screenplay with Coppola, which
Oh,
was
okay.
like not done at the time, and apparently
Yeah, yeah.
caused a lot of problems. So.
Sure.
but it's a great movie. I think it definitely belongs on any top 100 list.
I mean, it's like
Thoughts?
it's iconic. I mean, so many catchphrases and people doing parodies of that. It's all.
I was gonna say
most
I've
of
seen
it's from-
so many
I
parodies.
think I've seen more
Take
parodies
the
than I have the
cannoli,
action.
Yep.
leave the gun.
Well, that I
Make
mean,
an offer, can't refuse.
you
That's
can't
right.
refuse,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think even people who haven't seen the movie know that
They
line,
know
and
that
they know
line.
where it's from.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anytime like the horse head thing is an iconic
The horse head,
thing.
yeah, everybody
You've seen
knows the
everything,
horse head.
so.
And well, wasn't this the movie that in the wedding scene? That was one of the movies that was actually they played the music in real time. I thought that was one of the films because usually you add that music in post.
I don't know, but it wouldn't
I
surprise
don't
me.
know.
Because I thought it was something to get them into the groove, into the feel what was going on. I thought it was one of the first films that they actually played the music like live as the movie was happening.
They could have, definitely.
I think I was trying to remember if it was one of the Godfather films where they did that.
Very well could have been.
Any other thoughts on The Godfather before we move on to 2?
No,
I think
it's
Sarah's
deserving.
excited about too, so
Well,
might
I,
as
think
well.
I dominated that last conversation, so I'm taking a way step back on 2.
All right, Sarah, take it away. This is your moment to shine.
I mean, I figured this one is one. I mean, we all have something on it. I think we've all, at least once in our lifetime, have seen The Wizard of Oz.
It's a prerequisite for a Kansan to know what the Wizard of Oz is.
Yeah, because a lot-
you will get referred to it
Yes.
a lot if you
That's
travel
true. It's
outside
true.
of the
Oh, yeah.
state.
My dad, because we're originally from Indiana, so when we announced we were moving here, apparently at the goodbye party that the people at my dad's office threw, they gave him like a
The
broomstick,
broomstick and the
oil
slippers.
So yeah, so they gave each piece, out like a rite of passage. Like when a tornado takes us to Kansas, we got the equipment that we need. But yeah, I'm like I said, whenever I see a top 10, 50, 100, whatever, I always hope that The Wizard of Oz is in it. And it's cool that it's number 2. It actually kind of surprised me, to be honest. I figured it'd be in the top 10 or 20. I didn't know it was going to reach it to number 2, which again, for me, I'm happy about. I'm glad that during Hollywood's greatest year, 1939, is that we still have an iconic film that has affected generations
I think
since then.
I think The Wizard of Oz, when people, even if you don't watch old movies, when they say, "Oh, name an old movie," like The Wizard of Oz will probably be the first movie that they say.
A lot.
You
wanna say that louder into the mic?
I never liked Wizard of Oz.
What about it? Was it just
I
the
just
acting
don't like.
or
I just don't like anything about it. Honestly, there's just nothing.
Well, you're not
about
into
it that I like,
musicals,
so.
right? I think we talked about this
Not
before.
as much.
Yeah.
No, it has to be pretty special. Yeah.
What's funny is that it wasn't really the music. I mean, aside from We're Off to See the Wizard and, of course, Over the Rainbow, those are the two iconics. But I think I didn't realize it was based off a book, which I've learned now.
The book is a bit darker than the.
I've heard the book is
the
much,
actual
much
movie.
darker.
I would like the movie more probably. If it had been closer to the book.
Also, I've watched a few silent movie adaptations of them, and the silent movie ones are a little bit more. I believe they're more closer to the book than this. So this one is the typical because MGM was known for big, elaborate, show-stopping numbers. So I guess it makes sense that they would go all out with this, but. I don't know. I've heard there was so much stuff that went with this, and I know Buddy Epson was originally going to be the Tin Man, and like the aluminum on, he almost died from it. So there was so much stuff that went in to get this. It's almost a miracle that they made this in the first place.
I often wonder about that too. I mean, it's all pretty much, it's all in a studio. It's all heavily, makeup is everywhere.
Oh yeah,
crowded with people under these hot lights. How did anybody just like be able to focus and perform? I mean, it's pretty incredible.
And admittedly, I don't know too much about it, but
boiling.
Oh yeah,
in those studios.
Sure. Because admittedly, I don't know a whole lot about it, but lighting in Technicolor back then was, I heard it was extra bright, extra hot, and that's why a lot of people prefer black and white. You still had a lot of light then, but doing something in color, I guess, apparently was more of a hassle.
Plus all the costumes. I mean, looking at that picture, none of those look comfortable.
The Cowardly Lion.
The lion was about
you'd be sweating.
His costume. his costume was 90 pounds.
90 pounds.
That's crazy.
As a lion.
But I don't know. It's also just a good feel-good movie. Sometimes we like going for movies that are more dramatic or more heavy-hitting, and there's dramatic parts of it. When Dorothy gets taken to the castle and the flying monkeys and stuff, but it still has that bit of fantasy, I guess. So I guess is maybe the way that maybe a child would see that.
You can revisit it.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about it before, but going to the Dark Side of Oz and playing Dark Side of the Moon with Wizard of Oz, and it's a fun experience as well.
It sounds trippy.
It's absolutely, and you're supposed to, and it's encouraged. Yeah, but the idea behind it is one of the reasons why it's with all the accolades that pushed it towards number 2. It's one of those that is so prevalent in so many things, and other genres seem to fit as well. So
yeah. Oh well, one cool thing. I feel like I should have known this, but I didn't know it until a couple years ago. So the iconic scene when Dorothy opens the door to her house or from the house, and then she's in Oz, and it's in black and white or sepia tone. You open a door and it's all in color. So I always thought it was some kind of cool special effect that they did some kind of masking or something involved. Apparently, at least according to some of the things I had read and seen, apparently what they did, which this actually seems pretty clever. So because it's Hollywood, you had your scene, you actually had everything in those colors. So you shot it in color, but everything was that sepia tone. It actually wasn't Judy Garland to open the door. They had a stand-in the same outfit. They had made her dress sepia tone, so it wasn't like the blue and white calico dress you see or checkered dress. So they had everything in sepia tone, so that way when she opened the door, you opened it,
it was seamless,
straight on color, and then you bring in Judy Garland. And I was like, oh, what a clever idea!
That seems easier than trying to do a special
It's
effect.
certainly more expensive.
It was MGM. MGM. I highly doubt that they were short for cash.
And just trying to figure out special effects, and that's a big, as the progression of films marches on to what you had talked about in the previous episode to The Lord of the Rings. I mean, just the march towards how do we engage an audience more,
right? And
how do we capture them with this effort to allow them to escape their world.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you think the movie would have been as good with Shirley Temple playing Dorothy?
No, not in my opinion. Shirley Temple was a good actress. I enjoy the Good Ship Lollipop as well as any other person that knows that reference. She was cute and adorable. I think she would have been similar age. Maybe she would have been maybe a couple years younger. I'm trying to remember where they were in age. I think it just would have been maybe too cutesy because they tried their best to keep Shirley Temple young. Even as she was developing into a woman, they tried to keep her as a little girl. And for Judy Garland, she was kind of she was about 15 or 16 at that point. So I think they made a good choice in getting Judy Garland versus Shirley Temple. But you always wonder about casting.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, like
Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
So let's jump in then to number one.
Number one.
This one surprised me. I wasn't really expecting this one to be
this one
number
surprised
one on
me
the
too.
list. Psycho.
Psycho.
Hitchcock.
I know. I feel like we needed the violins
Yeah.
to introduce the film. Yeah.
Go ahead and add that in there. We'll pause. Hold on, pause. Psycho.
You got to get Hitchcock in there.
Yeah.
Of course.
Probably going to be number one. And then out of his catalog, what is it that you pick?
I mean, this is probably the most well known for sure.
Yeah.
Has
And
probably the most
influential.
iconic scenes.
Yeah. There's quite a few Hitchcock films in this list. Like
Yeah.
they have Vertigo on there because I thought Vertigo. I don't know. I mean, on a scale of Vertigo to Psycho, I think Psycho still would come on top. But that's a pretty interesting one.
I don't know.
They had
Vertigo
Notorious.
over Psycho. I
Yeah.
put Northwest.
North by Northwest.
over
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's one of those obviously catapulted him and it obviously catapulted a genre of thriller. I mean, as far
Definitely.
as that you can go to a movie and leave the movie, go home, you think you're done with the movie and you're in the shower and then all of a sudden the movie comes back.
Yeah.
But that's what, a good film will do is all of a sudden it permeates into your life.
Yeah, I do
And
believe.
now there's a
yeah.
threat
Yeah.
or a perceived threat that could be just behind the shower curtain.
Well, because you have
Absolutely.
that image of the silhouette behind the shower, and so yeah,
Well, I do,
which
yeah.
which you've probably seen. I mean, if you're
I've seen shower curtains designed
Yes.
like
Yeah.
that, which is the
I'm
creepiest
like,
thing.
no, why would you
Don't do
that?
that to me. Yeah,
I do believe Janet Leigh, after doing
Yeah,
doing
she
this,
took baths.
She was scared of the shower after that.
sure.
Well, she when you're filming it, you don't realize it. She said it wasn't until they
Seeing it edited
finished the
together.
movie and she saw the final thing of like the silhouette and him opening the shower curtain and stabbing, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, that was the scariest thing," So
Also, this is one of the first movies to kill a character off at the beginning of the film. That's probably another thing too. Like that was a big deal.
it started off as a different film.
It started out as a completely different film. You
Yeah.
didn't think they were going to kill her
It's
off.
just an embezzler.
Yeah. So, spoiler, people that have never seen Psycho.
Oh, they've
You
seen
should
it.
have by now. But yeah, that was a big deal. And then you spend the rest of it trying to them solving it. It's almost like a Columbo thing because you see the murder perpetrated, but you're kind of following along with the detective at this point as to what happened. So pretty interesting. I know, at least at the time of this recording, Vera Miles, who played the sister, she's from Kansas and she's still alive. She's in her late 90s.
and she still doesn't take showers.
I bet not.
She takes baths.
She takes back. But also the camera shots too. This kind of predates the Jaws shot, what we consider the Jaws shot, where the camera you push it in and you zoom out and you get that
Oh
distortion.
yeah, that's definitely a Hitchcock
yeah.
thing.
So yeah, but they did that in Hitchcock when Martin Balsam is going up the steps, and it's almost like when you see a Dutch angle and something's not right, and he's going up the stairs and you just know. Don't go up the stairs, and you kind of have that Jaws shot coming
Oh, like
up
in The
there.
Birds when she's walking up to the attic. I hate that scene.
I love that shot. I think
Can't
it's great.
stand that scene. I hate flapping wings.
Also, for a film like this, I think black and white is the best way to portray this, just because of the time period and everything. I think if it was in color, I don't think it would be as.
Well, talk to
Didn't-
Gus Van Sant.
Yeah, it didn't work for Vince Vaughn. Yeah, I guess we can
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah. All right.
So, yeah.
Is there anything before we finish up here? Because that was the
Yes.
5 through 1. Is there anything else on this list that you just wanted to make note of or mention anything about?
Well, we were talking about Hitchcock, but the movie that I thought should have been on there was Charade, which is labeled as
the Hitchcock movie he never made.
Yeah, well, I could have said
I'm
that.
sorry.
Anyway, the quote that Sarah just said is what I was going to say. So that kind of goes with that list.
Yeah. And did you notice anything on there?
I
that-
said it prematurely at the beginning of the show, but Memento,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Definitely.
And thank you for correcting me on that, because if Christopher Nolan wasn't on the list, that would be a shame as well.
It seems like, and Dark Knight's I think it's a good choice. I think Momentum is a more interesting movie. I actually like it probably a little bit
Yeah.
more, but I think Dark Knight is a really good movie because it took the superhero stuff seriously, made it
Right.
a crime movie, and it's got a fantastic villain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a bunch, but I'll just give a few. Like I'm glad Singing in the Rain was on there. There's a movie me and Charity like called Bringing Up Baby. It's kind of like the not the old. Well, I'll say the ultimate. It's a great screwball comedy. I think I mentioned Some Like It Hot. That was a good one.
All the old movies.
All the old movies. There's a couple of silent films. I'm always happy when I see a silent film make the list, just because people don't just because it's silent. But there's a Buster Keaton movie called The General. That one's on there. So it's kind of cool. There's still a good number of classic films that I like. And admittedly, there was a few that I'd never seen before that I was like, well, that'd be kind of cool to check out.
Yeah, there's a few I hadn't seen either. So I'm going to blow through these really quick. I think Star Wars should have been on there instead of Empire. I think Empire is a better made movie, but I think Star Wars is just a better movie overall. The original one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got it first, of course.
Glad Fargo was on there. Coen Brothers needed something on there.
Coen Brothers, yeah.
They put Road Warrior on there. I think Road Warrior is great from the original Mad Max movies. I think Fury Road's a better Mad Max movie by far. This one, okay, there's two of them I just had to mention. They put My Neighbor Totoro on there.
Yeah.
It is the most iconic Studio Ghibli movie at the time it's not the best Studio Ghibli movie.
No.
It should have been Princess Mononoke or Spirited Away or Howl's Moving Castle. They've made so many movies that are just better
Maybe it's
than
because
Totoro.
it's a popularity contest
It's
at that
because
point.
it is.
Yeah,
it brought
so,
sort
yeah.
of Japanese like animation to somewhat of a mainstream movie.
Right.
I mean, Akira probably even more so, but
I mean, I would say I even know about that one, and I'm not into.
I've heard of that
film.
one in Spirited Away because I've seen bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Of those.
This one I have to be angry about though. E.T. You put E.T. on a 100 movie list that doesn't include Jaws or Jurassic Park.
Yeah, no,
I don't take it seriously.
I was surprised. Yeah,
And they did well. It was a different genre, but they started off with Saving Private Ryan. So Spielberg got on there, but
Spielberg's already on there. Yeah, but how do you
Yeah.
put Saving Private Ryan and then your second one? You're like, oh, I have E.T.
yeah,
And it's just like Jurassic Park exists.
right.
It's
Yeah.
it's almost
Yeah.
a perfect movie in my opinion.
I've been there.
Jaws exists. It's not a perfect
Yeah.
movie, but it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that was like my biggest gripe. Also, you mentioned The Shining earlier. I think that movie is proof that a bad adaptation can still be a great movie.
That's a good point.
We have all this like conversation now where it's just like that's a bad adaptation, it's terrible, and it's just like it's not necessarily terrible. It's a bad adaptation. So is The
Yeah.
Shining, it's a terrible adaptation. So
Oh, Charlie Kaufman.
Charlie Kaufman wasn't on there.
Yeah, that's right.
like I said, I feel
Yeah.
like we do have to make our own.
We need
list
a
on this
double
one.
stuff
Speaking of
podcast top
adaptation.
100 list of
Adaptation.
movies.
A double stuff top 100. That's
Yeah, we could make a better one.
Absolutely. We should put it together on a show. Like just go through like even
Oh,
top 10.
yeah.
Even if we go to
Ooh.
100,
And then
it's
send
like
it
a
to
top
the
10.
variety committee, and then they can make a podcast about our list
That's right.
and completely trash it.
Dear Variety, this is why you're totally wrong.
We need to tag
You're
him
right
in this
about that one.
episode.
So, all right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and cut it off there. This has been two very double stuffed episodes.
Literally.
of Double Stuffed
Part
Podcast.
two.
And we could probably do 5 more of these, to be
I'm
honest.
sure we could.
So we'll go ahead and stop here. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to turn it over to Zara to give you all the deets.
Yes, please listen to both of these episodes. They were very riveting. So just listen to them all on our website. That's doublestuffpod.com. All of our newer episodes are available on all different podcast platforms. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Double Stuff Podcast. And of course, per usual, at Double Stuff P, and that's the letter P.